After having so many calls with different brand owner, e-commerce brand owner, I see a lot of times people ask me this question, which is it possible to run Facebook ads with a low budget? And the answer is yes. And with this video, I exactly want to show how we do this, how this is possible, and how what is the method that we use and the process that we use to slowly increase the budget while keeping everything profitable. Because the concept is that a lot of brand owners, when they're getting started, they cannot actually spend a lot of money because they don't have a return yet. But then once they start getting a return, most of them, they're willing, of course, to increase the spending on Meta or Google, if of course the return is stable. So with this video I want to explain the exact concept and also show you guys an example of brand that we actually grew like using this approach on Meta ads. Okay, let's get started. So as you can see here, we have some screenshots coming starting from May 2023 until September 2023. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and this shows the growth in terms of amount spent for this brand specifically. We started with a budget which can be considered low, around 100 pounds a day in this case. What we consider low is basically anything below 100 pounds or $100 a day. As you can see here, in May we spent 3.7 thousand pounds. On June we spent 4,000 pounds. July we spent 7k. August we spent 8k, and then September we spent 11,000. So as you can see, there is like a steady growth in spending, and the only reason why we were able to do that is because the return allow us to increase the budget, because since the client was spending, let's say, 3k and getting back a 3-4x, of course we were able to increase the spending. So in this case we also increased the revenue of the brand, and we helped this brand to basically grow from 4,000 something a month until 50,000 a month using this approach. Okay, so let's get started with the actual different phases. So the phase 1 is the phase where there is a small budget, which is the exact scope of this video, and then there's going to be different phases when you want to increase the budget, so you need to structure your ad account in a different way. So what is important to do in this phase number 1? So when you have a small budget, let's say under $100 a day, your goal is to start getting some traction. Probably the situation where you're in is that you have, let's say, between $50 and $100 a day in terms of budget that you can spend on Meta, and maybe you even never run any ad, so you're just getting started. And so the way you need to structure your ad, like your process during this phase, is to basically understand what works. So the only problem about this approach, like having a small budget, is that this approach will slow down a little bit your testing phase. So when you run ads, you have different phases. You have the testing phase where you want to test different angles and content to see what works, and then the scaling phase where you actually increase the spending, and so you can play more with volumes. Because of course when you run an e-commerce brand, and if you keep everything at very low volume, most of the time doesn't make sense. So what you want to do, you want to increase the budget as much as possible while keeping a good return ad spend. So you're increasing the volumes as much as possible. You can allow yourself to decrease a little bit the margins, so the actual profit in terms of like total profits will start making more and more sense. So you will see a longer time before you start seeing some success using this approach, and that's because you have less budget to test. So you're acquiring data with a much lower pace, and yeah, that's the consequence. So your goal during this phase is to test angles and content. You do not have to test audiences, also because nowadays it doesn't make any sense to test audiences on Meta. You don't have to do any specific retargeting campaign or anything like that. You are small, you don't need any retargeting, just focus on prospecting, broad targeting, and need to test different angles and content. And the goal is to find some winning angles that then you can eventually scale, and this creates it gives you the chance to increase the budget. So then you can go into the phase 2, which is not explained in this video, by the way. And once you find the winning angle, the way that you move into a phase 2, or you can even say in the phase 1, you don't necessarily have to go into a phase 2 with increasing the spending. You can still spend the same budget. What you have to do once you find winning angles is to create more content around that specific angle, so you can keep the consistency in terms of results. Most of the time you get started, you get like maybe month 1 you get like a 1.2 1.3 return on ad spend. Month 2 you start increasing your return on ad spend, maybe because you find a winning angle. Okay, so you have like a 2x. Then month 3 you create more content around the winning angle, you allocate more budget to the winning angle, and so on the month 3 you might get like a 4 or 5x return on ad spend. So this is the actual approach that you should go for. And then once you see that, you can either increase the spending or you can stay as you are. That's really up to you. Of course, my suggestion is to increase the spending, because e-commerce is a business that makes sense when you start having volume. Alright, so let's go into 2 different approach. So when you want to like manage like launch ads on Meta with a small budget, you have 2 different options. The first option is what I call like high management, just because you need to touch more time this type of campaign. Of course, this type of approach gives you more control, because you can control more what you do, but at the same time it's more high management. That means that you need to touch the ad manager every like 1 or 2 times a week. And then the other option is a low management, which means that you most likely need to touch the campaign like once every 1 or 2 weeks. So as you can see, there is a huge difference in terms of management. So that's actually more like the approach that you prefer to go. So as I mentioned before, we need to test different angle, and for this reason we go with one ABO campaign. The reason why we go with ABO compared to CBO is because we want to make sure that each angle that we test have enough spending, even though some people say, oh, you can go with a CBO and then Meta will allocate automatically the budget to the best performing angle, but that's not exactly the case always like that, because Meta sometimes invests most of the budget to angles or content that gets most engagement, not necessarily the best return on the ad spend. So what you want to do in this case, you have a budget which is, let's say, between $50 and $100 a day. And so you want to have 5 different ad sets. Let me zoom out a little bit. So you want to have 5 different ad sets. One ad set has one single angle, and then the budget is between $10 and $20 a day. So if you're gonna have $10 a day, you're gonna have 5 ad sets. That means you're gonna spend $50 a day. If you have 20 a day, you're gonna spend 100 a day. It depends really on your budget. And what you want to do inside each ad set, you should have no more than 3-4 creatives, just because the budget inside each single ad set is not that high. So like you need to kind of put budget in not many creatives, otherwise it would be spread too much, and it's gonna take much more time before finding actually what works. So this is the actual approach. The creatives here needs to be around one specific angle. Okay, let's say you're selling like a supplement for girls between let's say 50 plus years old. Okay, for women 50 plus. Cool. So one angle that you can go for is like, are you a busy mom? You have time to take care of your diet. Okay, these supplements can help you to lose weight. Cool. So this is one angle, which is the angle of busy moms, so you don't have time. So this one angle is going to have 3 different creatives to test, and what you're going to do, you're going to find 5 different angles through like a different research phase, like specific for your audience, and then you're going to have 3 different creatives. These creatives are different. These 3 are different from this. These 3 are different from this, and so on, because they focus on different angles. The actual design, if you want, can stay the same. The only thing that you can change is the messaging, because the messaging needs to refer to the angle. Okay, and so at one point the thing is that you will need to touch campaigns once or twice every week, because let's say after 5 days you spend 50 or 100, then it depends like how much you're spending and what market are you targeting, because different markets, they have like different CPMs. But let's say like around 5 days after, you have already spent 50 or 100 a day for each single ad set, and that means that you can start seeing taking some decisions. I see a lot of people saying that you need to spend much more, but that's not exactly the case, because we've seen like most of the time when we see like a winning angle, winning creatives, honestly, even like after spending the first $20-30, we already see that, okay, this is a winning angle. So after like 5 days spending 50-100 a day, 50-100 in total, you already know what's working, what is not working. The thing is that it might happen that after 5 days or 1 week, let's say, nothing of this, like no angles are working, so you need to find new angles, and so you are back to square one. Okay, so you need to again do the testing and everything, find new angle, create new creatives and so on, until you find the angle that works. Once you find the angle that works, you don't have to test angle anymore if you want to save the same budget. And so what you're gonna do, let's say this is the angle that works, cool. So you're gonna stop all this, all right? You're gonna stop all this. You're gonna keep only this one active at 10, 20 a day. And then what you wanna do now is create more creatives around this angle. So you're gonna create seven new creatives about this angle, and then you're gonna move everything into an Advantage Shopping Plus campaign. Here you have two options. You can either increase the budget, your total budget, by 50 to 100 a day, and this additional budget will be only allocated to this angle, or you need to stop all the campaign here. Of course, don't stop this one, okay? And keep the same budget. If this is 10, 20 a day, just put 50, 100 a day in this one here, and then at the end of the day, if this was like in here total you were spending, let's say 50 a day, you keep this one active at 10 a day, you have 40 saved, put 50 here, you're spending 60. It's not that much of an increase, so I don't think it's going to be a problem, right? Of course, what I suggest here, the best thing to do, the best scenario, is that you want to increase the budget. You also want to keep the testing. So you still want to keep your original budget into testing different angles and everything, because at one point this angle will stop working. And once this angle will stop working, you need to have new angles that you can use, like scale, okay? At this point, you're gonna have this one, which is working, cool. You keep it active, don't turn it off. And then you move all these creatives plus the new ones into that you've made, so the iterations, let's say, in Advantage Shopping Plus campaign. 50, 100 a day budget, just keep it there. And then you can basically just see and adjust this campaign like once, twice, every 2 weeks, 1 or 2, let's say like once a week. And what you have to do here is basically always creating new creatives and then replace the one that don't work. Let's say after 1 week, you see, let's say creative number 1 and 2 only works, and then what you want to do, you want to stop all the other one, and then you want to refresh the creative. So add 7 new add creatives, 8 new add creatives, whatever. Just try to keep the total add creatives active around 10. And this one will still be running, okay? Ideally, you also want keep running testing, so like keep testing new angles. So while this is running and is winning, you can either increase the budget here if you want to, just keep the budget as it is, and in the meantime you can test 1, 2 or 3 more angles. So this is how you increase the budget, right? And this is the option 1. Then you have the option 2, which is low management, which is basically just starting with Advantage Shopping Plus campaign. One asset, 50 to 100 a day, depends on your budget, and you have multiple angles with different creatives. So what we're doing here, instead of having one angle with like 10 different creatives around that specific angle, what you want to do in this case, you want to have multiple creatives, each targeting, let's say, one angle, or you can have like 2 creatives for each angle, all of them inside one single ad set. And the reason why we want to do this is because what really drives conversions and can really switch the things in your ad account is the angle that you test. So what you want to find is not the winning creative first. You want to find the winning angle first, and once you have the winning angle, then you can have winning creative. So how are you going to manage this? And why I'm saying that you need to touch this once every 1 or 2 weeks is because since you have many, like a lot of creatives in one ad set, you need to wait much longer because you don't have 3 anymore, you have many more. So you cannot wait 5 days anymore, you need to wait like 10 days. So it's 1, 2 weeks. And then what you want to do, you want to see what is working, what is not working, and then you need to stop the ones that are not working, and then you need to replace them with new angles, ideally. Or if you find already some winning angle, then you create different creatives around the winning angle and you put it inside the same ad set. And this is how you're gonna manage this campaign. So this is basically how you're gonna start with a low budget, and you can continue like this if you want with a small budget. Again, I don't suggest this approach, like of keeping a very low budget all the time. Ideally, you want to increase the spending. And so yeah, this is how it works. This is how we did it, and this is how we were able to bring this brand from 4,000 a month with a almost like 1.2x return on ad spend in May until September, where we actually spent $11,000, pounds, and then we got like a 50,000 in revenue. So yeah, this is it. If you guys like the video, remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.